You can't hear me. Hey guys. Sorry about that. I was muted. But welcome. So sorry about that. And today we are talking about 7 habits that you should start right now. 7 habits that you should start right now. Um, Make sure that you find the chat box. Make sure that you add your name, add where you're joining me from. I just would love to know that, just so that we can see where everyone is joining me from. So today we're talking about 7 habits. I am going to dive into a little bit about what are habits, and we are going to go from there. I'm so happy you all can hear me now. Sorry about that. Must press unmute. All right. So today we're talking about habits. And let me tell you why I decided to jump back into habits. So, last week and the week before, we talked about money. I talked about money, and then I was getting a couple of comments about routines. I was getting some comments about habits. I was getting some comments about planning. And so, I decided to do a poll. Asking you all if y'all wanted to talk about budgeting or if you wanted me to keep talking about planning. On this channel, I talk about both. We talk about planning and we talk about money. Since I flop back and forth, we did a really long series in the month of December, all on planning and getting organized for the brand new year. So I just automatically switched over to money in January. But then I was getting some comments still about that series and still about planning. So I put up this poll, and I'm going to show you guys the poll. So I put up this poll asking you all what you wanted me to talk about. Like, if you wanted me to talk still about budgeting, or if you wanted me to get into planning. And it was split. Really, it was half and half. It was half and half. So 52% of you said, let's talk about planning. 48% said, let's talk about budgeting. It was over 3,000 people who voted. And I have to say, a nice number of you also said that you wanted both. And you was like, I don't care which one you do, I want both. And I love both. So, what I decided to do is, instead of just focusing solely on one or the other, I'm going to do 2 lives that are dedicated to planning each month, and then 2 lives that are dedicated to money. So we are going to flip flop, since y'all want both. It was 50% pretty much both ways. So that's what we're going to do. So the last 2 weeks, we talked specifically about budgeting. Last week, we talked about money personalities. The week before that, I talked about getting ready for the brand new year with your budget. So this week, we are talking about habits and planning, kind of like getting your life together. And then next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about planning, and then we'll jump back into money, right? So we'll just kind of keep flip flopping. Since y'all love both, we're just going to keep talking about both. All right. So I wanted to mention that, just so you kind of know where we're headed. But today we're going to be talking about habits. And I wanted to dive into what are habits, why do we want more of good habits, why are good habits hard to form, the structure of habits. We're going to talk a little bit about structure. We're also going to talk about my 7 habits that I want to start for the brand new year. And we're going to talk about what next week's class is going to be about, and how not to try and put on too many habits too soon. And then I'm just going to dive a little bit into what the rest of this week, what's my content is going to be for the rest of the week. All right. So this is what we're getting into today. First, let's start off with, What are habits? What are habits? Well, habits are rituals and behaviors that we perform automatically, allowing us to carry out essential activities such as brushing our teeth, taking a shower, getting dressed for work, and following the same routes every day without thinking about them. So, the main reason why we want habits is because they create this pattern where you don't have to exude a lot of brain power in order to get things done. So when you wake up, you automatically brush your teeth, you automatically take your shower, you automatically get dressed. You do not have to think about these things. And when you don't have to think about these things, you're saving your brain power. You are not exuding a lot of brain power and thinking about the process of, oh my goodness, how am I going to brush my teeth this morning? You already know how you're going to brush your teeth because you do it all the time. It's a habit. And when we have habits like that, it causes us not to have to think about them. And when we don't have to think about them, it saves our brain power, it saves our memory, right? So that pretty much will answer the very next question that we have, which is why do we want more of these good habits? Because our unconscious habits free up resources, right? So that our brains can carry out more complex tasks like solving problems. So whenever you don't have to worry about a particular habit, whenever it comes just comes naturally to you, then you don't have to exude a lot of brain power. You get to save that brain power, and then you are able to kind of focus on other bigger problems that you may have or other things that you may need to focus on, right? So I'm going to show that definition. I see that question that just came up saying, can I show the definition of habits again? So let me go back to it. I'm going to show it to you really quick. Let's go back. Here we go. The definition of habits. Let me hide myself really quick so that you are able to see it. But they're rituals and behaviors that we perform automatically. We perform these things automatically. We do not have to think about them. We don't have to think about these things. They just come naturally and we automatically do them. And that's what we want. We want more good habits. We want to kind of be on autopilot so that you don't have to worry about the different things that you need to do. All right. So let's get into why are good habits hard to form? Why are these good habits hard to form? The first reason why good habits are hard to form is because we don't understand how habits are structured. We don't understand how they're structured. And the second reason habits are hard to form is because we do too much too soon and we set ourselves up for failure. So these are the two main reasons. These are the two main reasons why we struggle with forming good habits. It's because we don't understand how they're structured and we try to do way too much too soon. So today we are going to dive into structure of habits, how they're formed, how they're structured, how do we kind of develop those good habits that we want. And then I'm going to give you the seven good habits that I believe you should start today. And I'm going to go through the structure of each one of these habits, how I have applied them to my life, which will hopefully give you some really, really good ideas on how you can apply them to yours. So that's what we're going to do today. And then in next week's class, we're going to talk about trying to do too many good habits too soon and how they kind of set us up for failure. And so how we can really set ourselves up for success with the habits that we want to create for the new year. So this week we're talking about how habits are structured. Next week we're going to get into doing too much too soon. All right. So let's go ahead and get into how habits are structured. First thing, how habits are structured. There are three components to structuring a habit. The very first one is the cue or the trigger. And if you've never seen me talk about this particular thing before. This is from The Power of Habit. It is a book by Charles Duhigg. I'm gonna put it in the chat box or in the comment. Um, if you've never heard of it, but it is called The Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg. It's a great book. It really gets into the scientific studies like behind habits, like why we are the way that we are. And in this book, he talks about the three components of a habit. So the very first part is the cue or the trigger. This is the part of the habit loop where you are triggered to take some sort of action through some type of cue, internal or external environment. So there are three parts of this habit. It's called the habit loop. We are in this loop. And the very first thing that happens is you have some type of cue. There is some type of cue. Something triggers you. Something, makes you automatically think about this habit. And so that is the first thing that happens. And it could be to a bad habit, it could be to a good habit. The habit, the action itself doesn't really matter to your brain. Your brain can be cued to do bad habits, it can be cued to do good habits. So we have to pay attention to the things that are triggering us, to the things that are cueing us. So the very first part is this cue. This is the part of the loop where you're triggered. And so knowing your triggers, knowing those cues are super, super important to developing the habits that you want. The second thing is the action. Now, the action is the actual habit itself. This is usually the thing that we're paying attention to. We don't usually pay attention to our cues or our triggers because we don't really realize that it's happening. It just kind of happens. But the action is usually we will pay attention to those because that's when you're actually performing the actual habit, right? You're taking action on the habit that you want to adopt or something that you want to get rid of. So it could be a good habit or it could be a bad one. But this is the thing that automatically kind of triggers you. And the third part is the reward. And this is another thing that we don't usually pay attention to, but we do need to pay attention to whenever we are trying to develop good habits. And this is the part of the habit loop where your brain receives some type of reward. It's some type of desired activity, it's some type of good feeling that you automatically feel after you complete the habit itself, right? So you have the cue, you have the action, you have the reward. And when these three things happen, they happen in a loop, which is why it's called the habit loop. So you get cued, you do the action, you have the reward. Then it starts all over again. And what we want to do is create good habits for ourselves. But a lot of times we talk about just the action, right? We're only thinking about the action that we want to complete. I want to work out, right? I want to eat better. I want to read more. That's only the action. The issue is we don't think about the cue and we don't think about the reward when it comes down to good habits. This is why good habits are difficult and bad habits are easy because bad habits automatically are like they automatically happen all within your head, which means you're automatically getting that reward that you want without even realizing that you're getting it. So if we are craving carbs, for instance, the instant that you eat some fries or you eat something really bad for you instantly feel good because in that moment it tastes really good to you and that's your reward. So what we need to do when we want to have good habits is we have to assess our own reward because the good habits, usually the rewards aren't immediate. They don't happen instantly, right? They usually take a while before you start to see the reward of your efforts. And by that time, usually the habit has already kicked in. So usually you don't see the reward of losing weight the very first time that you work out. You're not going to see it immediately. So since you don't see it immediately, you have to have other little rewards throughout the process until that big reward kicks in. So that's what I wanted to talk about. That's what I wanted to talk about today, of how we can create those cues, those actions, and the rewards. A lot of times we're focused on those actions, but today I wanted to talk about the cues and the rewards to make sure that we're thinking about the entire process for our habits. We're thinking about the entire process of what we want to accomplish for our habits. All right. So, let's talk about my 7 habits. These are 7 ones that I believe that you should definitely put into place this year. I'm going to share with you the ones that just hold close to my heart. I put them on my habit tracker all the time. I talk about them, but I don't talk about the cues and the rewards, which is why we're doing this class, because I wanted to talk about all 3: the cue, the action, and the reward. So one of the things that I have talked about as one of my habits is the making my health a priority. So my health for me is working out, doing some type of workout every single day, and watching what I eat. So let's talk about what that looks like for me. First thing is the cue. My cue for working out is when my kids go to school. So every single day, every single weekday, I get up, I get my kids ready for school, I get them dressed. When my husband takes them to school, so he normally will take them to school. Once he leaves the house is quiet, right? So it's the minute that they are walking out the door and walking to the car, that is my cue. I'm already dressed. I'm already have my tennis shoes on. I get dressed. I put on workout clothes. So the minute that I get dressed and they're out the door, I instantly walk out behind them. I'm going jogging, right? In my neighborhood, I usually will do like a 2-mile jog. But the cue is the thing that triggers it, right? The cue is the thing that we want to know what's going to trigger me actually working out. And it's going to be when my kids go to school. The minute that they leave the house, my husband leaves the house, I am walking out the door to go and start my workout. That's the instant thing that happens. What happens after that? The action itself, I will set a timer for 30 minutes. This is because I like to time block, but I will set a timer for 30 minutes. So I will try and get to 2 miles, which I usually will hit within 30 minutes, or I will run for 30 minutes, whatever one comes first. So if I can, I'll just run for 30 minutes, even if I don't hit the 2 miles. But for the most part, I'm going to hit 2 miles in 30 minutes. What's my reward? What do I get after that? I don't drink any coffee until after I have worked out. So that's my reward. My reward is as soon as you get to come back and you take your shower and all of that, you get to have your first cup of coffee. The coffee is the reward. So you need to think about all 3 of these things. What's your cue? If you want to make your health a priority, right? Let's say I want to eat well every single day. Another thing that I'll do is I say, okay, I want to eat well. Me, like tracking my eating is a great way for me to actually kind of cue myself to watch what I'm eating, because I have to be very, very, very conscious when I have to write it down. So me writing it down is making myself a little bit more conscious. And we will do things like intermittent fasting. We will do things like cutting out meat, or doing a Daniel fast, or doing different things to ensure that we're just making our health an overall priority in our lives. So how are you going to do this? Like I said, my cue for working out is getting the kids off for school. My cue for eating well is the intermittent fasting. I try my best not to eat before 12, that kind of thing. I want you to think about your cue, and I want you to think about your reward. So that is my very first one, making my health a priority. Second thing that I like to do is to read something new every single day. Read something new every single day. So, what's the cue? We're still in my morning routine here. So, within my morning routine, as I get my coffee, the very next thing that I like to do while I'm drinking my coffee is I will try and do 20 minutes of reading. I do 20 minutes of reading every single day. And I see if you have any questions, please save them to the end. If y'all have questions, please save them to the end. We will get to questions at the end of the class. I just want to make sure for anyone who's watching the replay that they get all of the information, and then I am going to answer as many questions as I can at the end. All right. So, reading something every day, reading something new every single day. My cue is my coffee. As soon as I get my coffee in the morning, I am sitting at my dining room table, and then I read something for 20 minutes. Now, this is just me doing this instead of scrolling on social media like I used to do. So now I'm just reading something on my phone. I'm reading a book. I'm looking at something new every single day. And then if I do this at the end of the day, I may reward myself with an extra 20 minutes of scrolling on social media, the 20 minutes that I missed at the beginning of the day. Another thing that I do that really helps me to kind of stick to it, if you're a part of Organized You, one thing that I would do to make sure that I am reading is I tell you guys what I'm reading. So we will announce the book, which this month we are reading The Joy of Less. And the fact that I have announced and told everybody that I'm reading The Joy of Less with Organized You, that accountability within the membership group makes me read every single day because I know we're going to talk about the book. So, since I know we're going to talk about the book, I am constantly trying to make sure that I'm reading a little bit of it every single day or listening to the audiobook. I am doing something to make sure that I am consistently reading something new every day. So, what's your cue? Mine, it just continues, right? So, I just got my coffee was my reward from my last habit, and now it's my cue for my next habit. It's my cue for my next habit. So my next habit is reading, and I'm going to read something for 20 minutes, and then I'm going to be rewarded at the end of my day with an additional 20 minutes of social media scroll. Right. So now I can look at Instagram for an additional 20 minutes because I've read something new. And then I also have the reward of connecting with the members of Organize You and talking about the book that we have just finished reading or are currently reading. So the next thing, my third habit is to learn from people that I admire. So if you have a group of people that you just admire, I love to keep a list, and I will keep it in my planner, in my like reading section or learning section of my planner. I will write down different YouTubers or podcasts or just somebody on Skillshare, just something that someone that I really, really admire and I really want to learn from. And it could be millionaires that are on YouTube. It could be anyone, but I want to learn something from different people that I just admire in this space. And usually I will do this on a Saturday. Usually I will do this on a Saturday. So what's the cue? It's Saturday. It's a day of the week. So anytime it's Saturday, I'll say, okay, I'm like cleaning up. Usually I'm like just organizing things, or I'm getting ready for our family day because usually family day is Saturdays. And then I'll say, okay, what can I do for like 30 minutes as I get ready for my day? Usually it happens when I'm getting ready for my day, FYI. But I will like watch a YouTube video, or I'll save it, look at all of the ones that I had saved to my watch later. And then I'll try and watch something or read something or listen to a podcast or do something during that time from someone else that I admire, someone that I'm like, ooh, they're killing it on YouTube, or they just, they have so much knowledge, or I just love their channel. I just love the way that they create, or whatever the case may be. I just want to continuously learn from different people. And sometimes I will even go back and read some of your emails that you guys have sent me, and I'm like, "Oh, this is so good," or maybe I could try this. And I've had people who send me over planner ideas and other book recommendations, and just a whole bunch of stuff that you guys have sent me, and I'm like, "Oh, wow, this is amazing." And I'll even go and read stuff like that. What's the reward? Usually I will have some type of chocolate on a Saturday. I love chocolate. So my reward is usually some type of dark chocolate so that I can eat that on a Saturday for my dessert after I've eaten my meal. And that is after I have learned something throughout the course of my day. So that is my reward. So I would love for you to, I'm hoping that you guys can see the pattern here of how the cue, action, reward, because I know we got creating habits down pat, right? We got creating the habit down pat. Well, we talk about the actions, we talk about the different things that we want to do, but we don't talk about the cue and the reward a lot. And so the point of this class is for you to really see how I am able to associate the cue and the reward with the actions so that I stick to the habit, so that I am able to stick to the habit. All right, let's go to the next one. My next one is to keep your goals in front of you. Now, this is really like more of like a statement than a habit, I would say, because but I do like to read my goals every single day. I would like to read them. I like to keep them in front of you. I like to keep them within my planner. So that's how I keep it in front of me, is by keeping it actually in my planner. And once it's in my planner, then I know that I'm going to see it every single day. So that's my cue. My cue is having it within my planner. I don't know if y'all can see that. I'm gonna make it bigger just in case. Having it within my planner is my cue. The action that happens is when I open up my planner, and I open up my planner every single day. So I open up my planner right after I am drinking my coffee. After I have read something, the next thing that I am doing is opening up my planner. And then the very first thing that I'm going to see are my goals. So I like to write them, especially if I have some type of weekly goal. If I have a weekly goal, I will write that down for the week. I will make sure that I'm looking at it or glancing over it every single day. And then the reward for that is actually achieving them. When I get to check it off, it is amazing. I like to break them down, and then I like to be able to check something off every single week. So keeping your goals in front of you, I really hope that you think about making this a habit for 2022. The next one is to plan your day the night before. I have talked about this one quite a number of times, and it's mainly because I feel like this was such an amazing habit for me in 2020. I started this habit at the beginning, like at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, is when I really started planning my day the night before. And I really, really do feel like it helped increase my overall productivity. It helped me feel like I was getting more done. It helped me feel like, okay, I'm kind of on top of my day. And so planning the night before instead of the morning of really helped me increase my overall productivity. So I would plan on a Sunday, and then I will plan the night before for the very next day. So I plan on a Sunday for the entire week, and then I plan the night before for the very next day. And I promise you, it has made a major difference in my overall productivity. What's my cue? As soon as I get into bed. So I used to leave my planner in my office. I used to leave it in my office at the end of my workday. I would just kind of walk out the office and I'm like, okay, that's it for the planner for the rest of the day. But I started to actually bring it around with me even after I left my office because I wanted to be more diligent about my time, not when I was not just my work time. I wanted to be more diligent about the time that I spent outside of my office. Usually, when I'm in my office, it means I'm working. When I walk out of my office, usually I'm not working. I am focused on home stuff or doing other things. But I realized that I wasn't really paying a lot of attention to my home activities. Like it was in my planner, but I wasn't really like checking it off and checking my to-do list of my home activities. So once I started taking my planner out and looking at my planner right before I went to bed and kind of planning my next day and seeing how productive I was, my productivity increased drastically. So getting into bed was my cue. As soon as I got into bed, it helped me like, oh, okay, next thing I need to do is open up my planner. What do I have? What did I do today? What can I check off? I did this, I did that. Okay, that was good. That was great. Now, what can I do better tomorrow? Or what do I need to do tomorrow? And being able to check off every single thing that I needed to do and being able to really look at my planner and be more intentional behind my day, even my home activities, because I was very intentional behind my work activities, but not as much with my home. And now that once I started taking my planner to bed and I really kind of looked at it before I put it up for the night, I became more intentional across the board, which gave me increased productivity, which means I did it more. Right. So that was my reward. My reward was the increased productivity. And then I started to just do it more. All right. The next one is one that I really feel like this one helped me a lot in 2021. I really focused more on speaking positive in 2021. In 2020, I felt like I just wasn't as positive as I could have been, and I mean reasonably so because of everything that was going on. It was just a crazy year, and I didn't, it was harder for me to achieve a lot of the goals that I had set for myself. And I realized this is hard for a lot of us because I feel like a lot of women, we're very hard on ourselves and we're so kind to everyone else, right? It's like everyone else, you're so amazing, you're so this, you're so that. But when we're talking about ourselves, we're not as nice, we're not as positive, we're not as kind to ourselves. So, one of the things that I really wanted to make an effort with in 2021 was to speak positive, like about myself, about others, about life, just family, whatever the case may be. I just wanted to be more positive and speak that positivity on a consistent basis and not just when I felt like it, right? So how do you enforce this one? This one took me a minute to figure out how to enforce because it happens throughout the course of your day. It really happens a lot in your own mind, and you really got to make a conscious effort to stop being negative. So, one of the things that I did was after my planning, and I talk about this, is I started this gratitude journal. I started journaling. And I think I did a couple of videos on this one. But when I started writing in my journal and I started writing down all the things that I was grateful for, then it makes it very difficult to be negative. You can't be negative when you're writing down all of these great positive things that are happening in your life. When you are writing down consistently like your gratitude and how, great and how thankful you are, it's extremely difficult after that point to be negative. So once I started doing this on a consistent basis and I started writing in my journal every single morning and taking time after I plan to write in this journal, I realized that I was becoming less and less negative, right? I became more of a positive speaking person. So if you find yourself being extremely hard on yourself, I talk about grace all the time. And the reason why I talk so much about grace is because I feel like we don't give it to ourselves a lot. We are usually really, really hard on ourselves and kind to everyone else. So I want you to start speaking positive. Start journaling, start talking about how great everything in your life is. Once you write that down every single day, you will realize that you won't be as negative as you may have been in the past. So what's the reward for this? And man, it took me a while to figure out my reward as well, because it took a while for me to develop the habit of actually writing in my journal. But what I started to do was add $1 for every time I wrote in my journal. So it adds up to like $31 a day if I journal every single day. But when I added that money to my sinking funds and I added it to this little jar, and it's kind of like my gratitude jar, because every time I said something positive about my day or about my life, I would add $1. And even if I didn't have the cash on me, I would just transfer the money from my main bank account to my sinking funds, and I would just keep track of it in my budget planner. But when I started doing this, I would add $30 or add $1 every single time I journaled for that month. So if I added it up and I journaled 15 times up in a month, then I would transfer $15 to my sinking fund account. And that specific money was set aside for fun. It is only set aside for fun. It's only set aside for fun, because the point of it was to make sure that I was continuously doing it. When I was continuously doing it, then that's my reward. And then I could use the fun money for a spa trip, or, going get my nails done and feet done and all of the other stuff. Just something fun, or something that you've always been wanting, you want to buy. And now you just have to reward yourself with that purchase, right? So speaking positive, if that's something that you have struggled with, then try this one out. I feel like it really, really helped me across the board, and it really helped me to be more positive in the long run. All right, let's talk about, oh, is that yeah, I think that was the last one. Yeah. Okay. Was that 6 or 7? I can't think. I don't know if I gave y'all 6 or 7. I think there was one more, because I don't see it on here, but it should have been. So let me talk about my seventh one before, because I think that was 6, because I actually remember that my last one was on listening. My last one was on listening. And I wanted to make sure that I was listening to understand other people, listening to understand other people. Yeah, I thought it was 6. Sorry, I must have missed a slide or didn't add a slide, but I know them by heart because I've been doing them for so long. So the seventh one is listening to understand other people. So I realized a couple years ago that this was something that I definitely wanted to work on, and that was, um, I would talk, or I was waiting to talk, right? Like I'm listening to someone, but then I'm kind of just waiting for my turn to talk. So I wanted to be more intentional with listening to understand other people, and not listening or just waiting for my chance to talk to be understood. And this took so much intention. It took so much intention for me to really stop and pay attention to what was going on around me, and not waiting for my chance to talk. So, how do you do this? How do you do this? The very first thing that I started to do was to have quiet time. This was my cue. So, my cue is in the morning. This is after I worked out, after I had my coffee, I read something for 20 minutes, I would do my planning, I would do my journaling, and then I would stop for 10 minutes and I would just be quiet. Being quiet helped me to become a better listener, just across the board, because Like when you're not always speaking or waiting to speak or listening to something, there's not always noise around you. You become better at just being quiet and listening. And even in meetings, a lot, what I started to do is start to take notes. So whenever I'm in a meeting, I'll try and take a lot of notes, because when I'm taking a lot of notes, I am intentionally listening to the other person, because you can't take a bunch of notes without listening to the person that's talking to you, right? You just can't do it. So those were the things that I did in order to make sure that I was, constantly intaking information, listening to understand, and not just waiting to speak. So that's my seven. That is my seven. And then, of course, my reward for that is I always try and find little things that I want to do. Sometimes I will do staycations. This is if I feel like I'm really knocking it out of the park. I have been doing this intentionally for, the past 6 months. And I think last year, around the end of the year, I took an entire weekend off and I binged a Netflix show. And that was like my reward to myself for, I felt like really intentionally taking the time out to listen to other people and really pay attention to what's going on around me and not just trying to always talk. All right. So those are my 7 habits that I believe you should start now. We are going to talk, and let me show this to you real quick. We're going to talk about how to stick to those habits next week. We're going to about how to stick to those. So I talked about all 7 of these things, right? We talked about making your health a priority, and reading something new, and learning from people you admire, and keeping your goals somewhere where you can see them, and planning your day the night before, speaking positivity, listening to understand, right? So if you want to put all of those things in place, and you have a bunch of different habits that you want to apply to your life, how do you make them stick? How do we make them stick? How do we make sure that we're actually going to do these on a consistent basis? How do you make sure that you're going to do these on a consistent basis? This is going to be our class next week. Next week, I'm going to dive into how to stick to your habits. For the rest of this week, though, just so you can see the content that's coming out on my channel. So today we're talking about habits. On Wednesday, I'm going to be talking a little bit about managing time, which I feel like will help you tie back into your habits as well. So we're going to talk about 7 tips that I will give you to help you manage your time better. Thursday, if you are a part of Organized You on Thursday, that says YouTube, but it's not YouTube. That's going to be for the members of the Organized You. We're going to be talking about time blocking specifically in the Organized You on Thursday. And then on Friday, I'm going to do a day in the life. So Friday is just going to be a little bit of behind the scenes, because I haven't done a day in the life in quite some time. And so I wanted to do one to kind of give y'all an update of the different things that's going on. All right. So let's jump into some of your questions. I feel like I went through that very quickly. I was throwing a lot of information at you. But if you have a question, please use #Q and then put in your question. This just helps me to really be able to see y'all questions much easier as I am going through the comment. It just makes it easier for me to see. So please, if you have any questions from anything that we talked about, it could be a question on one of the habits that I talked about, or all 7 of the habits that I talked about, or you can have a question on the Q, like the structure of habits, the cue, the action, the reward. If you want to talk about that, you can ask a question about that. If you wanted to talk about why are good habits hard to form, we can talk about that. Any questions that you have about any of the things that we talked about today. And remember, next week, we're going to dive into sticking to those habits. So if you have a question related to that, we may get into it next week. But if you want to kind of dive into that as well, I can touch a little bit on it. All right. Do you set up multiple cues? So that is a very good question. Very, very question. Um, oh, wait. So, do you set up multiple cues? I will. When I miss a cue, let's say this actually happened the other day, right? So I have a cue, like I said, to work out right after my kids go to school. So that's the first cue. Kids go to school, I work out. Well, this particular day, my kids' school ended up calling and saying, hey, we are actually having an early release. Something happened at the school. The lights went out, electricity, something was going on, and they had to release all of the kids early. So instead of me having that workout time, I had to go pick up my daughters. So I had to leave around 9:15, hurry up, go and pick them up, which threw off the entire queue, right? So now that queue that was supposed to happen, I couldn't work out at that particular time. And now my kids are at home. So the very first thing that I do is kind of rework my day. But I usually will try my best. I will try my best to have two cues throughout the course of my day. Now, it does not happen with every one of them, but it does happen with working out. The reason why it happens with working out is because, remember, if you were a part of this class, I talked about certain balls being glass balls. I talked about certain life categories being more important than another life categories. My health is one of my most important categories, because if I get sick, I can't do anything else, right? If I get sick, I can't work. If I get sick, I'm no good to my family. My husband might have to take care of me, all of that. So I really try and make health a priority, which means that I have two cues. So the very first one is when the kids go off to school, but when that did not happen, I reworked my day. I called my mom. She was able to take the kids, so I dropped my kids off, and then I ended up working out in the evening. Another thing that I have done is brought my kids with me to working out. Like, so instead of running 2 miles, maybe I would do a nice family walk with them. But I try and see if I can rework it in my day. Now, if I can't, I can't. Like, sometimes there's no thing that there's nothing I can do. But if I can rework it and I can find another way to still fit that same thing in, then I'll try and do that. So usually the very first time frame is 7:30 to 8. That's my first time frame. Kids are off to school. I'm trying to work out between 7:30 and 8 o'clock, 30 minutes. The second time frame, if I cannot make it work at that first one, is 5 to 5:30. So I would try and rework it around that evening time. And then during that time, if I do have the kids or if it's my husband, maybe we'll do a family walk or something like that. All right. So let's see if I can go back. Let me see. Oh, thank you so much. So the church is going to be brick and mortar. It is. We open on January 30th. If you did not know, me and my husband are opening up a church. My husband is a pastor. And so we are opening it up in New Orleans. But if you are online, we do Bible studies every single Wednesday at 6 p.m. on my other YouTube channel. So if you didn't know, I have two YouTube channels. I have The Organized Money, and then I have We Are Empowerment. Empowerment Church is the name of our church. So thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's go. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you so much. We did that one. Let's see. So basically, if it doesn't work, if let's say you set up habits and they don't work, if you feel like they're not working, the very first thing I want to know is, do you have that structure set up? Do you have the cue, the action, the reward? Is it a good reward? It's got to be good. It's got to be something that you want. Every reward that I have, I love. I absolutely love, right? So I love going to the spa. It is one of my favorite things to do. I love binging Netflix shows. I love, getting my nails done. I love every single cue that I have. I mean, every single reward that I have. So you have to make sure that the reward is something that you want, because every bad habit that we have, we want that reward. We want the salt, or we want the fried food. We want the reward. So you got to make your good habits a really good reward. The second one, if it's not about your rewards, then it might be about how many you've set up, or if it's too much too soon, too fast. And we're going to talk about that next week. We're going to talk about that next week. If your habits, you aren't setting them up correctly. All right. Is speaking to yourself, positive to yourself affirmations. Yes, you could definitely do affirmations instead. If you want to write the same 10 affirmations every single day, then do that. Definitely do that. What I found is that journaling worked better for me than writing like my affirmations over and over and over. So originally, I was trying to do the affirmations, but I found out that I wasn't completing the action consistently. I wasn't consistent with it. But once I started to write about just positive things that's going on and just being, grateful, it stuck. The journaling worked for me. The affirmations didn't. But if affirmations work for you, do that. Do whatever works for you. You want to do whatever works for you. I have trouble with assigning rewards. What can I do to help with rewarding myself? The very first thing that I would say to do, write down a list of everything that you love. What do you love? Do you love going to Barnes and Nobles? Do you love Starbucks? Do you love shopping? Do you love going to the mall? What do you love? Do you love shopping on Amazon? Right? Like, it doesn't have to be like this big reward. Think about the little pleasures that you have. I promise you, iced coffee is like one of my rewards. Like I say, when I work out, I'm like, "Ooh, I can't wait to be able to drink my coffee," because I don't like working out. I just don't care for it. I know there are a lot of people that's like, "Oh, the endorphins, this," and it's so, I don't know. It never kicked in for me. But having my iced coffee after I work out is like the ultimate. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to have this coffee. All I got to do is get through this workout. Now, you do have to discipline yourself to not get the coffee, but I promise you, every time I have not worked out and still drunk coffee anyway, I feel guilty. I'm like, man, you're not supposed to have that coffee until after you work out. Girl, get yourself together, right? It's like that inner voice that kind of make you kind of second guess what you're doing. So I would definitely say write down anything that you could possibly think of. Brain dump all of the things that you absolutely love that just bring you so much joy, right? Write it all down, from binging a Netflix show to maybe there's a movie out. Is there a movie that you really, really, really want to see? And then you assign it to something that you have to do first. Like, I have to write 3 pages of my next book before I can go and see this movie, right? If your goal is to write a book and you need to write, like, say I got to write 10 pages before I go and see that movie, just assign it to something that you really, really want, and it makes it much, much easier to do. But you got to write down all of the things that you like in order to do this. Oh, I missed the cue and reward for listening to understand other people. Could you repeat it? Sure. So, listening to understand is the actual action, right? I want to complete an action of actually listening to other people on a consistent basis. When someone's talking to me, I want to be actively listening to them. My cue for that is basically if I am in a meeting, if I'm answering my phone, if anything happens where someone is talking to me, then instantly I try my best to start to pay attention. How did I start doing that? My cue is I started doing 10 minutes of quiet time every single morning. So, one of the things that I started reading about with listening is if you have a constant habit of talking, like I talk for a living, right? So I talk a lot. And since I talk so much, I have to make it a point to get quiet. And scheduling 10 minutes of quiet time where I am not talking at all helps me to become a better listener. It helps me to get more in tune with what's going on in my mind, what am I thinking, what's my thoughts, is, paying attention to other people. Meditation is another great way to do this. The more you meditate, the more in tune you will become with your overall surroundings and yourself, the more quiet you'll get and the better listener you become. So my after I do my planning, it's literally like one right after the other. So my as soon as my kids leave for school, that's my cue to work out. After I work out, that's my next thing I do is coffee. The reward, I should say. My reward is coffee. After when I'm drinking my coffee, the action that I'm doing next is reading. So I'm reading for 20 minutes. And then after I do my reading, then I'm going to do some type of planning. Then I'm going to journal. Then I'm going to have quiet time. So it's like one thing leads to another. So the cue for the very first thing is my kids going to school. And then the reward for each thing kind of leads into the cue for the very next habit that I want to do. So the goal is to be basically done, other than speaking positively and listening to understand. Those are the only two that are like going on all day, but the other ones are basically done by my morning routine. They're all included within the morning routine. So that is, and then my reward for listening to understand is usually I will schedule some type of Netflix binge. I will try and do like a weekend of Netflix binging or watching some type of movie or going to the spa. I will give myself some type of fun activity for what I felt like was listening to understand for an entire month. So I do this for 30 days. I check it off. I feel like I have done this for 30 days straight. The next thing I will do is schedule something. I will schedule a spa trip, or I will say, you know what? I'm going to spend this entire Saturday binging this show. That's kind of how that works. All right. How to set timers when you don't know what time you will do something. So when it comes down to, and I'm going to talk about time management in Wednesday's video, some of my time tips. And if you're a part of Organize You, we're really going to dive into time blocking on Thursday. But when it comes down to time blocking your day or setting timers, or and I might talk a little bit about this in next week's class too. If you don't have a lot of time, the very best thing that you can do is make it as small as possible. So this is why I actually have a lot going on throughout the course of my day, but all of the habits that I have talked about today, basically all of them are completely done within my morning routine. And my morning routine is about 30 to 45 minutes. So from the time of 7 a.m. to about 9 a.m., I have completed all of these things. And I'm dressed. By 9 a.m., I'm sitting at my desk ready to work. So when you don't have a lot of time, I'm not going to schedule a 2-hour workout session. I can't. Like if I tried to schedule 2 hours of working out every single day, I wouldn't work out that often. But I can do 20 minutes. I can do 30 minutes. I can schedule that in and make it really, really easy for myself. Or I could do a YouTube video. Okay, today was super busy. I couldn't do my workout session in the morning. Let me do this 10-minute Chloe Ting workout session on YouTube, right? Like, I don't know if y'all know her, but she's a YouTuber that does workout videos, and they're free and they're on YouTube. And you could just like jump around really quick for like 10, 15 minutes. And doing something, a small amount of something every single day is better than trying to do these really long sessions 3 times a week. And this is because we are talking about habits, right? And when we're talking about habits, the habit of doing it every day is what we want. We want to make sure that we're doing it on a consistent basis. All right? So that's how you can, you know, do it more consistently. Hi, Melissa. How does keeping up with your habits get? This is a very, very good question that I am currently working on figuring out. So, um, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this in Friday's vlog, which is going to be a week in the life. But a lot of things are changing for me. A lot of things are changing for me, which means that I am currently in the process of redeveloping and figuring out my habits and figuring out how they're going to flow. Now, instead of, just going to church on Sunday, my Sundays are going to look majorly different, right? Because now I'm a pastor. Now I do counseling, right? So now that I am counseling members and I'm talking to people more often, and I am teaching Bible study on Wednesday nights, and I still have organized money, which I'm not stopping because I absolutely love this and I consider it a part of my ministry as well. So everything is like changing. So to be honest, I don't know exactly how they're going to affect my habits. The church opens at the end of January. I have already had, some things that I just had to switch around and change my filming days and change when we do certain things, right? And me and my husband are really trying to figure it out. And especially with our kids, because we want our children to feel a part of the process and not to feel like, oh, that's mommy and daddy's church. It's what we're doing as a family together. We want to help the community as a family. So I want to make sure that they feel a part of it. So it has been a lot. It's been a lot. And so I don't really know exactly how it's going to adjust, but I am taking it slow. I am figuring it out. And as I figure it out, hence vlog on Friday, I am kind of walking you through the process. I feel like, I talk about life and season changes all the time. And this is a major season change for me. This is a major season life change, and I am currently figuring it out. So I don't really have an answer, but I'm definitely going to keep you all updated and kind of talk about my process of how I figured this out. All right. How do you stick to your habits when your kids are home or out of school for the summer? They change drastically. My habits will change based on the season. And like I said, even when I'm talking about, us starting this church, my habits have changed. Throughout the month of December, I might have worked out 3 times, like literally, because it was just such a big season change shift. And so when that shift changes, I feel like when the seasons change, you can't do anything in the moment. You kind of have to wait for it to level out, and then you can kind of readjust. So a lot of times when my kids are off, I might do 10-minute YouTube videos, workouts, as far as my workouts, or I'll do like 5-minute planner, video, or 5-minute planner routines where I'm just like not in all of my planners, but I might just be in my main planner, my schedule planner, my hourly one. And that's the one that I'm really sticking to for a particular season. So you got to figure out how it works for you. A lot of times I will just adjust the habit. I will adjust the habit so that I am um, not beating myself up for not completing the habit, but I still give myself little times to still get a lot of these things done, even though I'm not able to dedicate a full hour like I was when they are in school. So you have to really pay attention to like just how it kind of flows. But many times, many times you just kind of shorten the time frame. You shorten it. So instead of a 30-minute workout, it's a 10-minute workout. Instead of, eating healthy all throughout my day, maybe I'm just sticking to my intermittent fasting. Or I'll, cheat on the weekends. I will adjust as time goes. I will just adjust. All right. So when is the Daniel's fast starting? We actually started Sunday. So we're doing a 21-day Daniel fast. Started Sunday. I actually posted a vegan chili that I did on the Empowerment Nola Instagram. So if you wanted to see the recipe for that, I posted like my home planner video on my regular Instagram, and then on Empowerment Instagram, I posted the vegan chili just to kind of share with you if anybody was interested, the recipe that I used for that. But it started on Sunday, and it goes all the way through the 29th of this month. So we're doing 21 days. We're doing no meat, no seafood, mainly just vegan dishes. All right. Let's see. I'm going to try and answer a couple more. Let's see. Oh, church service online is going to be Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on We Are Empowerment. Remember, it starts January 30th. And then for Bible studies, we've been doing Wednesdays at 6 p.m. on the YouTube channel. I am going to get into a little bit more with kids, because I do certain things with my children where I am, and it depends on their ages. It really does depend on their ages. When they were smaller, I just would label, like we label a lot of the things like toys. I just label all of the boxes, and their main thing is to put things back. As long as something has a home, I feel like if it has a home, then the kids it's easier to train them on the different things that they should be doing with different things that they have, right? So um, you have to have the order already set up in order to teach them the system. So currently, my kids are 7 and 9, and right now they've kind of gotten past the picking up after themselves. They're pretty much good with that. And now I am teaching them how to think through the process of creating homes. So when I talk about creating homes, I'm talking about when they get something new, I will ask them, oh, so what's going to be the home for that thing? Like, right? Like, oh, we got this new jewelry box. Where are you going to keep that? And that creates the process of them thinking through where this new thing is going to go in their room, right? So they'll say, oh, I'm going to put it on my dresser, or, oh, I'm going to do, you know, certain things at certain times, that kind of thing. So this helps them so much with developing their own process of thinking through how they're going to put, things back, how they're going to create homes, how they're going to organize different things. I'm helping them think through that process. So it makes it easier for them. All right. Ooh. Oh, so Central Time, 6 p.m. for Bible study. Eastern Time is going to be 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I keep forgetting about time zones, but I am Central Time. So I am going to, it's 6 p.m. Central Time. Eastern, it's 7. All right. If you're Pacific, that's 2 hours behind me. So I think that's 4 p.m. your time. 4 p.m. your time. To get the kids to be a part of it as a family, let them do some research in the community. Yes, that is very good. That is exactly what we did. So one of the things that we did was to tell the kids, like, oh, we're doing kids church and we're going to do kids events. Like, what do y'all think we should do? And one of the things that they thought of was, one thing that we actually did is they was like, oh, we should do trunk or treat, right? And it's, we will set up our cars and then all the kids can come out and we can have a bounce house and it'll be at the church, and we can, do a movie night and all this other stuff. So they come up with stuff all the time, and we really, really try our best to actually do everything that they say, so that they feel like, no, when I suggest something, it happens. Like, my parents like listen to me, and I'm a valuable part of the team, and that really, really helps them. Like feel like they're really super a part of it, right? So the church is going to be at a school. It's at West Jeff High School on the West Bank. If you that's what we've been telling everybody. If you know where West Jeff High School is, that's going to be the church. That's where the church is going to be located in. Well, I guess this is the West Bank of New Orleans. How do you like to write your cues and rewards in your planner? So I don't always write my rewards, but if you've ever seen my habit tracker, let me see if I can show this. Can I show this? Y'all see this? Hopefully. I feel like my light is kind of drowning it out. I think it is. Oh, I don't think it's going to really show, but my habit tracker, I will track if I actually completed all of my habits on this actual sheet. And I feel like the lighting is really like blurring it out. But if you go to my Instagram, you really can see it. And so I will like use my habit tracker, and I kind of keep all of them in here for the entire month. Like, I just check off for each week if I completed it. And then at the end of the month, I will look at each one of my habit tracker and I'll say, oh, I did this. Like, if I have checks all the way down, I did this the entire month. Like, I'm just looking at them over. And then if I did it, then I will give myself the reward. And I may add it to my monthly planner, but for the most part, I kind of know them all by heart because I've been doing them for so long. And so I can, that's how I knew I was missing one when we were talking about it earlier, right? Because I kind of know them by heart. But when you first get started, you may even want to write the reward or the cue on the actual habit tracker. That might actually help you if you wanted to get a link to this actual habit tracker. I do have it within my Etsy shop. So you can see it there, and I know the light is really messing with it, so you can't really see it, but you can head over to my Instagram if you just wanted to like scroll down. And I do have a good picture of how I have a couple of reels on my actual habit tracker, how I fill it out, how I check it off, how I use it. So you can definitely see it there. All right. Let's see. Any other questions? I feel like I might have missed something at the top. Let's see. I don't know if I got them all because I have a lot of comments along with the questions. Hopefully I got them all. I don't think I did this one. What's the mindset shift? I feel like a training dog bribing myself when I set up rewards. The inner little girl rebels and does it anyway most times. So this is a very, very good one. And really, you may want to even look at putting mindset as one of your actual habits that you want to work on, is improving your overall mindset. One of the things that I really, really like to do is read a lot of books on my mindset, on changing my mind. changing the different thoughts that I have. This also kind of goes into that speaking positive to myself, giving myself grace, keep trying. But one of the things, the easiest thing that you can do, especially when you're starting off with new habits and you know you like to rebel, is make it as easy as possible. And we're going to talk about this next week. But when I tell you, I did not like working out, did like, I just didn't like it. And nothing I tried to do would make me like it. You know what kind of started to help me change my mind is when I started being like, you know what, I'm gonna work out for 1 minute. Like, I'm gonna do 10 jumping jacks today. And I started there. Like, I would literally do like 10 jumping jacks and be like, that's it for today. And then I said, you know what? Let me try and do 10 minutes, or let me try and do 5 minutes, or let me try and do 1 minute of push ups, like something super, 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 super simple, so that I could kind of work on that mindset shift of like convincing myself that this was a good thing that I needed to do. You need to work out, like, right? Like, so I would just try and do something super small every single day, so that I just did something every day. If you just tell yourself, you know what, I'm gonna do one push up every day, I'm gonna just do one. And then after a while, you're gonna be like, this is ridiculous that I just keep doing one. Let me do two. And then after that, you do five. And then after that, you do 10. And I think a lot of times we are so focused on our overall results that we forget that it's about the habit. It's really about just being consistent with that habit. I didn't become a super planner just overnight. It was because I told myself, you know what, today you're just going to open your planner, at least look at it today. Right. And then I'm like, you're going to plan every day. And then you're going to do it. And then after a while, you just build on that one habit. So make it super, super, super simple, like super simple for yourself. And even when you're talking about, I see you're talking about being a good, grandparent, even with me, when I was talking about being a good mom, one thing I told myself, you know what, you're just going to play with your kids every day for 10 minutes. Just play with them, because they're in the play stage where they want to run around and jump around. And even with that, when I decided that I was just going to play with them for 10 minutes and run around, it was kind of like my workout too. It's like you can combine some of these things, right? So I would listen to an audio book while I'm cleaning. I would run around with the kids. And so I'm being a good mom and I'm working out. So I'm literally doing multiple things at the same time. So I can check off working out and check off family time all at the same time. See what I'm saying? So try and make it easy for yourself, even if you have that mindset where you just want to rebel and not do it. Just make it super fun, make it really easy for yourself to actually do it on a consistent basis. So I think that that's one of the things that you can do, is just try and find that time to make it really easy for yourself, so that you just do it, so that you do it. How are you going to rearrange your own schedule when the church is open, because church is going to take a, yeah. So many of the things that me and my husband have been talking a lot about, the different things that we're going to do for the church. First off, we're going to have a lot of help. We're going to have a lot of help, which I'm super, super grateful for. We have a nice number of volunteers, a lot of people who have just said, I'm willing to help wherever you need it. I consider a lot of the things that I do ministry. I consider this, I know it's a business, I know. And it does help me to sustain, our household, because as of right now, we haven't opened the church yet. So since we haven't opened the church yet, my ability to be able to teach women how to organize their lives has also blessed my family, to where my husband does not have to worry about money, or sustaining our house, or in order to go and do what he really wants to do for the community. So it has been a blessing all the way around, and I really look at it as all ministry. It's all ministry to me. So I really do feel like God has put me on this earth to help organize his house, organize my house, and organize other homes through my business. So I am going to continue to do so. And I believe that he's going to give me the provision in order to continue to do his work. So I do look at it as that. And so I am just super excited about what's coming up and what's going to be next. I do believe that he's going to bless the work of our hands and that it's going to be a blessing to the community. So that is my overall goal. And I believe that, when the schedule conflicts come up, I will have to apply my own teachings. I'll have to apply my own teachings and be like, okay, so this is how I rearrange. And I am believing that through this process of me trying to figure things out, I'll become a better teacher because I'll have to learn exactly, like I'll be refreshed with all of the things that I had to learn how to do. And then I'll be able to teach it to you guys. So that is what I am super excited about. And I know it's like 5:20, so I'm going to let you all go. But one thing that, we're going to talk about next week, let me share, is we're going to talk about how to Oh, it's the slide before. We're going to talk about how to stick to these habits. I know that this seems very overwhelming, especially when you're creating all of these habits at the beginning of the year and you're trying to figure out how you're going to do all of these things. And so next week we're going to talk about how to stick to them. We're going to talk about how to stick to them. And then after that, we're going to go into probably some more money things because, like I said, I'm going to flip flop back and forth. This week on Wednesday, don't forget, we're going to talk about managing time, which also helps you with your habit. And then on Friday, I'm going to have a day in the life of a professional organizer, which is exactly what I do. All right. Last question before we jump off. How did you transition from working from someone to working for yourself? Ooh, girl, it's so I worked in accounting for 8 years. I'm going to answer this really quick. I worked in accounting for 8 years. I worked in public audit, which means I did a lot of travel. So I did a lot of travel. I would travel every single week, and then I would come back home. So one thing that I ended up doing was being able to, I ended up doing that for about 8 years and saving up a bunch of money. I saved up like 6 months of money, and then I ended up quitting. I quit with money saved, and I went into ministry. I worked for my church, my personal church, for about 3 years. No, I worked for about another 6 years. And then me and my husband started our own. So, really and truly, I've worked in ministry for a nice amount of time. So, working for myself, technically, it's only been about a year that I did not also work in ministry and solely had to provide for the house, but saving was a huge part of that. And maybe we'll do that once we jump back to money. We'll talk about that. All right. So thank you all so much for joining me. Please, please, please like this video, share it with somebody if you feel like it's going to help them. And I will see you in next week's live. I will also see you on Wednesday's video and Friday's video. All right, guys. Thank you so much. See you next time. Bye, guys.